it's interesting. For myself, I have throughout my life, I've been like on all ends of the spectrum when it comes to weight and fashion. I've been fat,
Yeah,
I've been really skinny, and then I've been really fit. And then I've dressed like a prince, and then I've dressed like a pauper, and then I've dressed in between. And it's interesting, like I've experienced it. Like when you're in that middle area, when you dress proper and when you like are fit, like people do treat you differently than like when I walk in with like just Hawaiian like shirt, sunglasses, long hair. Like it's a totally different scene. But it's like I'm the
yeah,
same person, but it's just that presentation. And actually, I think it was Kant who had actually said this. He said something along the lines of like the design is just as important as the actual thing, if not even more important. If I'm not mistaken, he was the man who said that, or something to the effect of that. So I totally see
yeah,
that. And another thing that I wanted to mention was fashion, right? To take care of yourself, to appear good. That is also the courage to be disliked.
yeah. I mean, people are gonna have an image about you regardless, right? Like whether you dress nicely or you dress, horribly. You know what I mean? But I would rather be at the end where, if people are gonna just dislike me regardless, right? Like, I don't think it's necessarily that you're courageous for being disliked. It's like more so like you're gonna be disliked regardless, so you may as well, do what you want. You know what I mean? And have that courage, right? Because you're gonna be disliked regardless. So I think you
Yeah,
should
good
stand
point.
with, you know. And it's interesting that you mentioned like the middle ground, right? Like how you've been at post spectrums, but you've also been at that middle ground. And I actually remember there was this one quote by Firas Zahabi, right, who's a very famous MMA coach, and he said a perfect balance is not 50-50. It's more so like it'll probably be 60-40 or 70-30, right? Right? Because some a little bit more of something is probably better, right? So I feel like, 50-50 exactly is not necessarily the best route. It's you got to lean a bit more to one side, right? Like, with fashion, I think, I actually had this problem myself is that I became too obs I feel like a little bit is still true is that where I became too obsessed with what I was wearing. And but I feel like, and then there was a point where I just didn't care, right? And I feel like there's like probably like a 60-40, maybe a 70-30, ground where
Yeah,
like you should care, but like not too much, you know what I mean? That it
yeah.
like it like messes with your head.
It's funny that you mentioned this because it reminded me of something. One of my friends that he had said to me, like, we're just walking at school one day and he's like, dude, what do you think of like my fit today? And then like I just kind of like looked at him and I laughed and I'm like, dude, like I can't remember the last time I cared what people thought about what I wear. And I'm not
Yeah,
blaming him or judging him or anything. It's just like for
yeah,
myself, it was just so funny to me. Like, wow, I can't remember the last time I cared what people thought of what I wore. But
yeah,
yeah, no, there is definitely a point to dressing good, presenting yourself. Um,
yeah,
it's an important thing. Yeah,
yeah.
that's that.